You're now listening to Sanity at the Movies, Stargazing Edition. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second Star Wars movie that we are going to be talking about, Empire Strikes Back, 1980s Empire Strikes Back. We're going to do a couple episodes on this one, although we really need to pick up the pace, don't we? Because
it's absolutely.
like August.
We got to get this stuff done by December.
So we should probably, we've got done all the things, right? What's coming out that we have to do this year? Anything much more? Any Marvels or things that people are going to demand Sanity at the Movie talk about?
No more Marvel in 2019.
There's probably something or other that we have to see, but we'll pick up. So I don't know. Maybe we'll just do a giant Star Wars run. We'll get Brandon back here. I'd like to get Ben Sulzer in here to talk about a Star Wars movie at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be fun. But today you've got me and Jake. We are going to introduce you to the concept of us talking about The Empire Strikes Back.
Just the idea of us talking about it. And we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to get you ready for the idea of us talking about it.
That's exactly right. This whole episode's going to be a very metatextual episode. Or it's going to be about how two guys are talking into a microphone about Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
That's not true.
I have no idea what's going on.
No. Jake actually doesn't have any idea what's going on, but Jake is going to, because I told him I had an idea how to do this episode.
He explicitly told me not to rewatch Empire Strikes Back before coming in. I haven't.
Yeah, and I have not rewatched it either, and we'll probably rewatch it before the next episode. But today I just want to talk more big picture about Empire Strikes Back. Really, there's one point that I want to make in this episode, and that's that Empire Strikes Back, I think everybody feels really, 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 really inevitable. As many successful, awesome things feel inevitable.
Yeah.
But you take yourself back to 1978, 1979, when this movie was in development. I don't think anything about it was inevitable. And to make that point, me and Jake are going to play a little game called Studio Pitch.
Okay,
thing.
Yeah.
And so, Jake, you're going to play the part of... Now, the interesting thing about Empire Strikes Back, and I think the very important thing that you need to know, is that Lucas waived a pretty substantial fee, I want to say $500,000 directing fee for A New Hope in return for the licensing and merchandising rights for Star Wars. Because George Lucas is a genius.
Genius move.
George Lucas understood what he had. 20th Century Fox did not. And so they signed away for $5,000. George Lucas bought billions of dollars, right? And those toys were flying off the shelves by Christmas of that year. They couldn't keep up with the demand. Empire Strikes Back, they knew what they had, and they went into it, prepared to sell toys to merchandise Star Wars, lest we forget or lest people don't know. Now the new Marvel thing comes out. McDonald's is going to do a tie-in. There's going to be Happy Meal toys. There's going to be Walmart's.
I was traveling the other day and I went to McDonald's, and I was so annoyed because I was trying to order, and all of the screens switched to an ad for The Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. And I had to sit through and watch this ad for The Lion King before I could see what was up on the menus to order. So obnoxious. Brave
New World. I mean, we're basically living... I always think one of the most prescient technical movies or technological movies is Minority Report. Yep. The part where Tom Cruise or somebody...
Minority Report, let's be honest, shaped the world that we live in. Like, the Imagineering of Minority Report gave us the desire to have the kind of tech and user interfaces that we have today.
That's absolutely right. And there's a really good article. I forget who wrote it, or where you can find it. But something about how a lot of the stuff in Minority Report actually isn't that intuitive or that great. But
we wanted it.
We wanted to be able to, move things on touch screens with our hands like Tom Cruise does. Yeah. And so, lo and behold, we do. Yeah. And I'm not sorry. I think it's cool. I haven't watched that movie since around the time it came out, I think.
I rewatched it in the last 5 years, I think.
Does it hold up?
Oh, yeah, it holds up.
It's one of the good ones?
I think it's one of the good ones. One of Spielberg's,
When he still wanted to make entertainments and still had his heart in them.
Yep.
Maybe one of the last ones. Great Spielberg. Not that he hasn't done good movies since then, but one of the last great Spielberg style entertainments where his heart was really in it.
Just like a fun, big budget, Indiana Jonesy kind of
action scenes and ideas and characters and everything. Yeah. Everything's firing on all cylinders.
Yep.
You watch. I like his War of the Worlds. I think it's a little half baked. The second half of that movie is not nearly as good as the first half. And then after that, we get into your Crystal Skulls and your Ready Player Ones. The things where it seems like he feels like he wants to still do some stuff for the kids, but his heart's just not in it.
What's sad is there could have been a real... the kind of partnership that Tom Cruise has now with guys like Christopher McQuarrie.
Yes.
like maybe it could have never ultimately worked between Spielberg and Cruise, but Cruise has sort of like taken that Spielbergian mantle and used people to achieve that same kind of goal. But man,
I mean, some people might say, wouldn't it be fun if Spielberg was a hack that didn't follow his vision and still made the kinds of things that he made in the 80s? Is that what you're saying, Jake?
Yeah.
Maybe that is. And
it is what I'm saying.
Well, and I tend to agree. Wouldn't it be fun if Spielberg still just made crowd pleasers?
Yeah, it would. Nobody did it better.
Yeah, nobody did it better. I mean, I understand, you when you're an old man, you don't want to do the same things that you did when you were a kid, and you want to grow and change and challenge yourself.
Yeah, but movies that mean things. I mean, it's like you want to do movies that mean things, right? And you end up doing movies that don't mean anything.
Well, that's the thing. If he was really challenging himself, I think I'd feel good about it. But what I always get the sense is that he's got a great team. He breathes film out of his nostrils. He sweats film. He can put together a movie like The Post. And really easily,
awards.
And he can get Meryl Streep and all
Tom
these
Hanks
people,
and whoever he wants.
Bob Odenkirk is going to play a small part in the movie. He can he can get all the best people to come in. They can knock it out. He can be doing Ready Player One basically on the side, filming for 10 days on that thing.
Apple could call him up and be like, "Hey, we're launching a thing. Do a thing for us," and he'll be like, "Yeah, sure, I can do that on the side too." And it'll be fine. It'll be good.
So these prestige movies don't actually feel like big challenges for him. I think they were. I think Saving Private Ryan was a big challenge, and I think you feel the sweat and the blood, no pun intended, in that movie. And I don't like the story in Saving Private Ryan. I think it's a bad screenplay. Actually, that's Nathan's controversial take on Saving Private Ryan. But in terms of the filmmaking and what he was trying to do, it's an impressive spectacle, and moving.
People, I mean,
Schindler's List, same thing. I mean, you could tell he really wanted to make that movie. It meant a lot to him. He put a lot of himself into it.
Yeah, and people have tried to follow that pattern. Christopher Nolan's a really good example of trying to follow the Steven Spielberg pattern of, I make big fun crowd pleaser type movies, and now I make serious movies. And
right.
How do I make the shift? One of the things I have to do is a big epic World War II movie, so I'm going to make Dunkirk.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting point. I'd actually never thought about that, but Nolan probably, in his heart of hearts, takes, not even in his heart of hearts, he probably thinks to himself consciously, I want to be Spielberg, and I'm just going to follow in his footsteps.
I think he does, yeah.
But so thus far, Nolan hasn't abandoned the idea of making movies that lots and lots of people want to see, that are about things that are interesting to more than people that might be interested in The Post, for example. Nothing necessarily wrong with The Post. I haven't seen The Post. I'm sure it's fine, but
I haven't either. Why would I want to see a prestige propaganda film?
Right. Well, and even something like Bridge of Spies, I don't know. It just feels like he's not challenging himself. I think in a certain sense, Spielberg had the best year of his life. I think it was 93. Schindler's List and Jurassic Park both came out. So he got all the honors as a serious filmmaker, and he made the best spectacle, audience-pleasing entertainment of his entire career. And both things happened. He was going insane trying to oversee the special effects on this silly kids' dinosaur movie and immersing himself in the Holocaust. Yeah. He's doing all these things at once, and then these two things hit, and suddenly he's Steven Spielberg, serious filmmaker, and he's also wearing the crown as still the guy that's still got it as the greatest entertainer.
Yep.
And I think he's kind of tried to follow that template for the next 20, 30 years. I guess it's been about 30 years since 1993 now.
Yep.
But it doesn't quite work as well. You can tell his heart's not really in the entertainments. And I don't know how much his heart is in the prestige pictures. I think he likes the prestige pictures more, but it feels more like, I appreciate the theme of this, of your Post or your Bridge of Spies. I appreciate the idea. I have a point that I think would be helpful to make, and I've got all the resources. So
people are gonna,
I don't know. I'd love for him to just do something crazy, whether it's as an entertainment or
try to break a budget again.
Yeah, just that's the thing you got to appreciate about James Cameron. As much as he's not somebody that I particularly respect, he's going to make 5 more Avatar movies, and he's going to wait forever until people don't care about Avatar, and he's going to swing for the fences again. I mean, Avatar 2 is going to have to prove itself. He's going to have to prove that Avatar is a worthy franchise. That it's worth being a franchise. And there's absolutely no guarantee, just like there was no guarantee with Avatar 1, just like there was no guarantee with Titanic, just like there was no guarantee with Well, I guess Terminator 2 was a pretty safe bet, but Terminator 2 was a big budget riff on what was essentially a pretty simple first
Avatar
movie.
2 is going to make a ton of money. The question is whether or not it will justify Avatar 3.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Avatar 2 is going to be one of the biggest budget films of all time, just like the first Avatar was, and it's going to promise endless spectacle on a level that you've never seen before. And there are going to be films and documentaries and things about the new technology that was invented just for this film. People are going to want to go see that. And then the question is, was the curve great enough?
Yep. We'll find out. That'll be an interesting one. I mean, what is the Alita Battle Angel thing that he spent a good chunk of his career building up to? Nobody cared about. I didn't even bother. I just wasn't interested.
Yep.
Just didn't look all that interesting. I mean, it looked cool. I bet I'd probably get something out of it, But
some Friday night on a cheap stream.
Right.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, okay, Ready Player One, we read the book.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw the movie.
Yes.
But talk about a property where you really could have pulled out all the stops.
Yeah.
Put so much money into making it as immersive of a spectacle as you like. Let's make that movie designed for 3D so much that the only way to see it is in 3D.
Right.
Let's make that movie. Let's design that movie for the Oculus Rift or the some VR tech and 3D. And the only way to actually see that movie is 3D and VR.
Right.
And let's tons of money into new equipment and stuff. Let's make it really, really special. Let's make it an event.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it... Spielberg could have done that.
Yeah, but he was the wrong person for that movie. I just think anybody would have done a better job on that movie because
it's a tribute to Spielberg.
Right, and Spielberg is self-conscious about that, and rightfully so. Who wants to design a tribute to himself? So just don't take the project. I understand why you wouldn't want it, but that's why you don't take it. And you get anybody. You get J.J. Abrams, you get...
Yeah, J.J. Abrams would have done a great job.
You get some hack that just likes Spielberg. You give him a big budget, and they're going to do things to recreate Spielberg movies. Spielberg actually does one thing in that movie right, which is he recreates The Shining really well because Spielberg has a lot of affection for Stanley Kubrick. Now get somebody like that feels that way, not just about Stanley Kubrick, but about Spielberg.
Yeah.
And let him design things that suddenly snap you back into that world of Jurassic Park, of Indiana Jones, of Star Wars, of all those things, Amblin Entertainment things that you remember.
Yep.
And suddenly you have a really, even if the plot is stupid, you have a really nostalgic, exciting movie.
Fail.
All right. All of which has everything to do with Empire Strikes Back, the movie that we are discussing. Actually, It kind of does. Here's how I'll tie it in. All these kinds of franchise things like Avatar, the Avatar series, the fact that the Avatar mythology will keep expanding, all this kind of stuff. We live in a Ready Player One world of marketing and merchandising and repackaging. Well, even forget about repackaging, just packaging in general. Star Wars created, right? Toys, nostalgia, merchandising, licensing, the fact that these things had a life beyond just being a movie that you went and saw and enjoyed. It was a world for kids to enter into and for adults to make an awful lot of money on kids entering into this world.
Yep.
This was all, not Steven Spielberg, this was all George Lucas, the visionary world builder, and George Lucas, the incredible businessman.
Yep.
And you kind of need both. I really think if George Lucas was just a visionary, then he'd be some visionary that nobody had ever heard of. Point is, you have to be a savvy businessman. You have to be a savvy understander of what people want, of what kids want. You need that aspect of George Lucas, which is a very mercantile, mercenary, money-making side of him. And we can disparage it if we want to. We can disparage the collapse of civilization that came after Star Wars. Everything, the snake eating its tail, everything turning meta, everything turning merchandise, everything turning remake and reboot. And we can see the lineage of that in Star Wars, and we can disparage it. But you also wouldn't, I don't think, have what you like about Star Wars if you didn't have that sense of, audience pleasing.
What world is more cool as a little boy to play in than the world of laser swords and these cool spaceships that you've never seen before? Bad guys that you can line up that look completely different than anything you've ever seen, but they're clearly bad guys, and good guys that look like good guys, and everything about it is really smart and really calculating. You can play in that world imaginatively, and you can play in that world with figurines, and you can play in that world with plastic lightsabers, and you can play in that world and now with Legos and with on PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo, and that's really cool.
Right.
That's really fun. That's really smart. And in terms of building something that's going to last, like what Avatar doesn't have yet is how do you play in that world?
Right.
How do you play in the world of Dune? How do you play in the world of,
How do you build out that mythology in a way that will actually be compelling and resonant and last for people? And that's
with stuff.
With stuff.
It actually needs stuff.
Right.
It actually needs things.
Right.
Things that you can learn, things that you can geek out over, things that you can play with and talk about, things that look different and are unique to that world. Harry Potter does this fairly well too.
Yeah. Well, Harry Potter does it brilliantly. We can argue about it going downhill in the last couple of years with Rowling being stupid, but Harry Potter did it really well.
Replace lightsabers with wands, stormtrooper get up with cloaks,
right?
Add some paraphernalia like glasses and scars, and
right. Well, and the important point to make, and the point that I think we're going to make in this episode, and this is certainly not an original point with us, but I think it's the one that you need to remember about Empire Strikes Back, is that the real key to all of this that we're talking about, to all the franchising, to all the licensing, to all the mythologizing, to everything that we really associate with Star Wars, both good and bad, Empire Strikes Back is really where all that stuff locked in. A New Hope, after you release that movie and it's successful, you can go any number of directions. You can go any number of directions with the sequels. You can not do sequels. Not a foregone conclusion. People didn't just franchise things. Franchising wasn't nobody. If I recorded a podcast and people knew what podcasts were in 1980, and we said a film franchise, nobody would know what we were talking about, right?
Yep.
A film the whole idea didn't exist. You had your Planet of the Apes movies. You had James Bond, which did it successfully. And so what does James Bond inspire? It doesn't inspire other people to go out and do their own things, create their own franchises. What it inspires is Matt Helm, Harry Palmer, and all these other spy franchises, right? Like Hollywood can be so uncreative sometimes. Like we have a successful spy franchise, we will try and create other spy franchises.
What it took was a pair of geniuses in Lucas and Spielberg, actually, to say, hey, let's try an archaeologist.
And this is 20 years down the road, right? It shouldn't take them 20 years to realize we can do other kinds of we can take the template of James Bond and not just do James Bond with it.
Yeah, we can do not just Bond knockoffs, but we can do our own thing.
We can do our own thing, still using
by tapping
the building
into
blocks.
what is cool about this franchise.
And if we do that, we'll probably...
And part of what's cool about it is that it is a franchise.
Right.
That there are catchphrases, that there is stuff in the world that, like, part of what's cool about Bond is, okay, here's the part where he goes to Q and Q gives him something that's surprising.
Right.
And here's the part where he, in Act 3, finally uses the thing that Q gave him. And here's the part with the girl. And here's the part with, oh, what's the girl going to be this time? And what's the twist going to be? Like, that was all fun. And you got to, suave guy that you wish you could be.
Right. Well, that's actually a perfect lead in to talk about what Empire Strikes Back did and how innovative it actually was. Because let's think about the James Bond movies. James Bond in From Russia with Love actually does have the same girlfriend at the very beginning of the movie. Sylvia Trench, when he famously in Dr. No, he says his famous line in the casino, and you are Mr. Bond, James Bond, and the music, the really iconic moment, right? And the woman he says that to, Sylvia Trench, is the girl in that movie. She is actually at the beginning of From Russia with Love. She's his girl. But that's really the only continuity because he quickly abandons her and then he has like a new girl in the movie and then there's a new villain and basically they're just repeating the same formula. Then Goldfinger, new girl, and it starts to become a thing. Who are the new girls going to be? What are the new gadgets going to be? But you always know your way. I mean, one of the charms of the James Bond movies and one of the detriments, you always know where you are in a Bond picture, right? You know that at a certain point they're going to get to the villain's lab and the villain is going to show them around this grandiose place and then it's all going to get blown up. And you know that there's going to be a bad girl who's going to probably turn good after she sleeps with James Bond. And there's going to be a good girl that may die, or maybe she'll be the girl that he finishes the movie with. And you can kind of even tell, all you have to do is look at the girls usually to say who's the bad one that's going to be good, who's the good one that's going to be bad, who's the final girl. It's not that hard to figure out, right? There's not a lot of surprises in the James Bond movie. And that's one of the charms. That's why generations of dads have loved James Bond movies, because it's actually fun. Like, oh, he's doing it's the Q scene. I always love these.
Yep.
Oh, it's the scene where he banters with the villain in the casino. This is always fun. Oh, it's the girl. She's always pretty. It's a formula, right? And that's what James Bond was. And so that's your big franchise forerunner, actually, to Star Wars. And so let's put ourselves in the heads of evil cigar chomping executives. think about what they might like a second Star Wars movie to be. Closing the loop on how we started this podcast, what I wanted to say is Lucas got licensing and he got merchandising rights, which meant that he made a lot of money and he actually did not have to go to a cigar chomping executive to pitch the second Star Wars movie. He self-funded it. It is essentially an independent film. Empire Strikes Back is, because George Lucas could afford to do that. So he takes the money from Star Wars and from the merchandising. He's made a lot of money. He waived his director's fee, but he was smart. He set it up well for himself as a businessman on the back end. So the beginning of his empire, of his billions now are coming in from the first Star Wars movie. What does he do? He invests it in industrial light and magic. He starts to build out Skywalker Ranch. He actually gets away from Hollywood. If you watch George Lucas in interviews and stuff like that, he seems like a very shy, insular kind of a guy that, he's famously not somebody that's a very good director, actually, just in terms of actors don't enjoy working with him. He doesn't enjoy working with actors. He gets away from the business and starts to build his own funhouse, which kind of becomes Hollywood, right? Industrial light and magic. Like everybody kind of follows after him. Skywalker Ranch, all these things. But George Lucas is essentially operating as an independent entity when he makes Empire Strikes Back, which is not necessarily how he had to do it, not necessarily how you'd expect it would be done. So, but he didn't have to answer to anybody. And he became the executive. And he got a director, an old film school tutor of his called Irvin Kershner, to direct the movie. And Irvin Kershner brought a lot to Empire Strikes Back too, basically by blowing Lucas off. I think the reading between the lines is they clashed a little bit, and Kershner brought a lot of the humor and the humanity and the Han and Leia and the I know of it all. That's very Kershner. That's also, I guess, since I'm just giving a little context here, that's also Lawrence Kasdan, who's become pretty famous as they bring him in now as kind of the guru of Star Wars. He wrote Solo.
Yeah, we can probably have some confidence. The nerds will have confidence if Kasdan's name's attached to it.
Right. And I don't know. Seems like a nice guy. I don't know how much he really cares about Star Wars, but he has a thing. He's a commodity that they can bring in that the nerds will feel a little comfort about. And then he writes.
He wrote Raiders, didn't he?
Yeah, he wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark. So he's an advertising executive who had a script called The Bodyguard, which was a really famous script that got bandied around Hollywood. And it was there's always these scripts that are like the famous unproduced, like the greatest movie never made. There's scripts, you can read about them even now, scripts that get passed around for whatever reason they never get made. This movie actually did get made with Kevin Costner many years later.
Houston, yeah.
But back in the 70s, Kasdan had written the original screenplay. It was supposed to be great. And so that was his calling card. But he's just this advertising executive. And he starts to get some traction in Hollywood. And then Spielberg and Lucas sit down and do Raiders with him. And he's perfect for that movie. You've got Lucas's structure, which Lucas is a genius with structure and world building. You've got Spielberg's just magic, his pixie dust, his filmmaking acumen, the fact that he lives and breathes this stuff. Spielberg is just...
And was just at the height of his creativity.
If Lucas is the engine, then Spielberg is the gasoline.
Yeah.
And then Kasdan, what would he be? I mean, he's the person that put all the little bells and whistles.
He's the German mechanic.
Yeah, he's the
designed the engine. Who designs the engine.
Yeah, so he's actually doing the designing. He does a lot of nice stuff for that movie. The dialogue between Marion and Indy is pretty crackling. There's just a lot of sophistication and wit and fun in that movie that I wouldn't say are necessarily things I generally associate with either Spielberg more than Lucas, but definitely not Lucas.
Yeah.
And Kasdan just brings a sense of fun, and he makes the movie a little bit adult, and I think that there's some good and some bad to that. Some of the sexual stuff is annoying in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that's Kasdan as much as anything. Although Lucas and Spielberg bring
not
that kind of
there.
Their hands are not clean, certainly. But Kasdan's this witty, worldly wise guy, and so him combined with Irving Kershner, they really bring some classiness to the writing of the second Star Wars movie and the performing and all the stuff that people like about Empire Strikes Back, the romance, the fact that the characters are a little bit more interesting, and there's something more for adults to appreciate. There's a little something that mom and dad can kind of enjoy about the movie. It's not just the kid. It's not just Luke Skywalker swinging across bridges the whole time. And that is as much thanks to Kershner and Kasdan as anyone. But I want to return to my original point, and I want to return to this game I want to play. In this game, Jake, you're going to play George Lucas, okay?
Okay.
You're going to play George Lucas, and we're going to pretend
I thought I was going to be the cigar chomping exec.
You can be the cigar chomping exec if you want
and I'll be whoever you want me to be.
All right, you be George Lucas, and you're going to pitch. We're going to pretend like you were an idiot and you did not secure licensing and merchandising rights. And so I have the sequel rights. You need to impress me in order to get this second Star Wars movie made. And so you're going to pitch Empire Strikes Back.
I'm already nervous about this.
You're you can do a frog George Lucas voice if you want to, but you don't have to.
No.
Okay, you're just Jake Menzel, okay? You're Jake Menzel, and you have a great idea for a second Star Wars movie. Your great idea happens to be what we know as
a truly great idea.
Empire Strikes Back. But I'm going to be the cigar chomping executive, and I'm going to react to your idea. I'm already
feeling the pain of it.
All right.
Okay, so I've got this great idea.
All right, tell me about your idea, kid.
Okay, all these characters that we've introduced in this last film, people are probably going to expect them to have an adventure together, but let's split them all up over the course of a film.
All right, let me stop you right there. Which characters are we? Because I know the first movie had this Luke Starkiller guy, right?
Yeah, Skywalker actually.
And so,
yeah, sure.
Are we going to do another adventure for him? Is he going to be back on Tatooine? I assume he's back to normal. They blew up the Death Star at the end of the movie.
No, we're
going
to start in a completely new place.
Okay, wait.
Some place completely different.
Let me stop you right there because people really like the first movie, and it's kind of it's a desert. It's basically a Western. I read in the New York Times that you're drawing on Western themes, right?
Yeah, and you can draw on Western themes. But part of what was cool about the first one, it wasn't that it was a desert. It was that it felt otherly, and it had two suns, and it felt completely different. So what I want to do in the second one is give that same experience again of something completely different that you never thought of. Like, so we did a desert. I'm thinking more like Ice Planet. And it can be just like a Western, stark and, but Arctic. Think Arctic Explorers.
Ice is a lot. Okay, the first movie was not an Arctic Explorer movie, though. It's basically a cowboys and Indians thing in space, right? It's a Western, right?
It's a space opera. It's sort of its own new genre. And so we can kind of...
The first movie was basically, it happened with some sand, and then they were in the Death Star, so...
Yeah, there was sand in the Death Star, that's right.
There were some spaceships flying around.
And now we're going to give people a new experience, completely new planet, new place. It's going to be super exciting because, people are going to come and think, oh, desert, that's cool. But instead, it's going to be Ice Planet. And they're going to be like, whoa, Ice Planet. That's neat. I didn't expect that. Oh, this is cool. It's got its own unique vibe. This is a bigger world than just desert planets. This is a world with all kinds of planets from, any place they land could be totally different.
Okay, I'm going to go with you on this. I'm going to let you make your pitch, but are you aware of how sequels work, especially for kids' movies? Your James Bond, he goes back to Q Branch to get new gadgets at the beginning of every movie. It's kind of basically the same thing.
Yeah, but this is going to be, you need to think like, have you ever read Lord of the Rings?
Space movies, I think of, your Planet of the Apes, right? You had the first one, and then the next one they fought some more apes, and then the third one, they were on that planet. They were still fighting apes.
Yeah. Well, but
kids actually like comfort. They like to be able to return to things.
Do they? I think kids like things that are cool and interesting and fun,
like James Bond, like Planet of the Apes. It's a pretty successful kids movie. I'm a successful cigar chomping executive here.
Okay. Bond's got its own cool thing going, but what I want to do is I want to tell a bigger story that develops in a bigger universe. And so I kind of think, Bond's cool in its own way, but it's also kind of like small-minded and lame. And what I want to do is build something even bigger and cooler on top of what we've already got.
I like bigger and cooler. So is there going to be like a new villain for Skywalker to fight? He basically defeated the Empire at the end, right? They blew up the Death Star. Skywalker, is there going to be like a new, James Bond, he has a new villain come every time. Who's the villain in this one?
It's Darth Vader.
The robot man from the first one?
Yeah.
The thug?
Yeah. He's more than a thug.
Well, in the first movie, though, we had Peter Cushing, right? He was the villain. Grandma Tarkington, whatever his name was. He was, he had dialogue and a face.
But he wasn't scary in the same way that Darth Vader was scary.
Okay, I understand kids like their Robot Man, but...
Robot Man is more... He's just more. We introduced him, you thought he was a thug, but what I want to do is I want to set up sort of like two parallel journeys here. So like Luke is becoming more of a hero in the minds of our audience. Darth Vader is becoming more ominous, and there's also like somebody behind the curtain here who's even more scary, the Emperor.
Okay, I like that part, but...
Yeah.
The stuff that you're talking about with Vader makes me a little nervous, right? He's a this would be like...
He's a cool robot.
Again, you've seen the James Bond pictures. So, Goldfinger, Goldfinger was the new villain. You don't take Oddjob and then make him the main villain in the next movie. This guy was just a thug. He's just a murdering robot man.
He can be a lot scarier, I promise. Plus, we're going to do this thing where we make it even more complicated and cool. I was going to save this for a later part in the pitch, but he's actually Luke's father.
Robot Man?
Robot Man is actually
with
Luke's
no
father.
face.
Yeah.
With no...
No, he's a person inside of there.
This is like the Lion King 2019 that I'm predicting.
No.
Because I'm a very smart studio executive. That they will have these lions
it's
that
gonna
can't emote.
Blow people's minds. He's gonna. I mean, first of all, you got James Earl Jones voicing him.
All right, I like that.
But here's the thing: like, actually, it's the fact that he can't emote that makes him scary. You don't know what's going on inside of him. All you know is that he's evil and scary, and he wields a great big red lightsaber that's also scary, and people are scared, and he can choke people with his fingers through space. Like, he can move things and throw things, and we're gonna have a scene where he's like moving and throwing things at Luke.
Yeah, these are all Robot Man gimmicks, and I'm fine with
no,
robot.
it's not Robot Man.
Kids
it's
like
not
robots.
Robot Man gimmicks. It's the Force. Like, the Force is this thing. It's gonna take a bigger place in this film, like, than even in the first one. The idea of the Force, of moving things with your mind.
Wait,
right? I didn't tell you that that's actually a thing. But yeah, so like the Force, remember like all that use the Force stuff in the first film?
Sure, yeah.
We only got the tip of the iceberg, okay? And so, that was sort of like felt like a guiding thing that helped, the laser shot, make it to the center of the Death Star or whatever. And, help Luke maybe have a little bit of precognition with his, but what we're going to find out is you can actually manipulate space. It's sort of like telepathy. You can move things around with the Force. You can stack rocks and you can throw things.
This is an adventure kid movie for kids. We're not going to spend a lot of time on all this.
Yeah, we are.
Religious
it's
mumbo jumbo, right?
The kids are going to eat it up. They're going to be like, oh man, they're going to love the idea of imagining themselves tapping into this like secret power that they didn't know that they had.
Did you see the first Star Wars movie?
I made that movie. Yeah.
Basically, the guy runs around. He shoots laser guns. They have big battles.
But you know
what's
cooler than laser guns is laser swords. And did you remember? There's just that one scene, where we had that one laser sword battle, right? But like, what if we had another laser sword battle with Vader again?
Okay, I'm liking this. So
okay, and it's you had Obi-Wan, and he was the father figure to Luke, right? And he was killed by Vader. And then now Luke's got to face down his own father in a great big laser sword battle, but they're going to be able to throw stuff at each other with the Force.
All right, that sounds cool. Cool. So we'll be doing this through the whole movie, right? There'll be lots of laser sword battles. And
no, we're going to spend a lot of time actually with Han and Chewbacca and Princess Leia.
Well, they were popular characters, but Leia should be with Luke, right? That's what we were setting up in the first movie.
Actually.
Or did you want to maybe bring in a new girl? Because we could get, actresses would kill me in this thing.
No. I think that we just need to play with the sexual tension between Luke and Leia and Han and
This is a
Leia.
kids movie. Did you just say sexual tension?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a way to do that without, making it, non-kid friendly.
But it's the tension between Han and Leia?
And Luke and Leia too, I figure like if like Luke and Leia kiss early on to set up the jealousy thing, but then Han can eventually win or seem like he's going to win.
The pirate guy? I mean, he's a charming side character, but he's going to win?
Yeah, he's going to win.
Luke and Leia are a couple. It's Luke and Leia, right? People have written articles about Luke and Leia. I mean, they're the thing. They're the couple of 1970s.
Well, I just think it's a fun twist because it makes it more
to give the audience something that they don't want.
Luke's a
fun twist would be if de Havilland didn't end up with Errol Flynn.
No. Okay, what's fun is breaking conventions, and what we've got Luke on is this journey. And I don't want to complicate Luke's journey with a love story right now. What I want is Luke to have to face down his own demons, to have to face down his father. And he's on this journey to sort of become this like epic samurai monk, if that makes sense.
Face down his father, face down his demons, epic samurai monk. Did you see the first movie?
Yeah.
They run around in hallways and they shoot laser guns at each other. That's what the kids liked. And then they fly their spaceships.
We're going to give them even more things to like, but in a different way.
Okay, what kind of things are we going to give them to like?
Well, we got a new character. His name's Yoda.
Can we get like Marlon Brando or Jack Nicholson or?
No, I was just going to cast Frank Oz, the puppet guy with Jim Henson's crew.
What, can he act? You're just going to get Frank Oz to...
It's going to be great, yeah. We're going to have this awesome puppet.
Wait, let me make sure I'm getting this straight.
Yeah. Puppets are actually going to be a really big thing in this movie.
That's absolutely insane. I feel
No,
like
it's
I
not.
should...
No, because you need super cool aliens.
My next 2 words should be severance pay.
Well,
listen, the first movie got a lot of cachet by bringing in Alec Guinness. We need to get the next Alec Guinness, right? We need to get somebody to add a little gravitas to
I was
this
actually
thing.
thinking we could bring Alec Guinness back as a ghost.
Well, that sounds kind of silly. You think he'll do it?
Well, yeah, I actually think he would do it, and we'd pay him and Phil reprise that role. It'd be no problem. So
okay,
we
but
can have him as yeah.
If we've got another mentor character, though, that's a place where we can put in. We could go for Brando. He did Superman, right? We could go for.
He did do Superman, but
we can get somebody to bring gravitas to this thing.
It doesn't need gravitas. It needs to be fun.
All right, here's what you're telling me. You're saying you want to take this kid's movie, about people running down hallways shooting lasers at each other, and you want it to be about this man facing his demons.
Yeah,
and then you want to do that with a puppet.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this puppet is going to also
Kermit
be
the
surprising.
Frog. Kermit the Frog is going to help this man face his demons.
He's going to be a little more. He's going to be a lot more lifelike and realistic than Kermit the Frog.
Okay, but he's still a puppet.
Yeah, well, see, that's part of what's fun about it is at first we're going to think that he's just some dorky trickster guy hermit thing that is in the way, and then it's going to turn out that he's actually really wise and powerful, and that's going to be cool because part of what's cool about the Force, and especially for kids, is that it doesn't matter how big you are. So we're going to make this puppet the size of a child, right? And Luke's going to think that he's going to look down on this child-sized old. He's going to be really old too, 900 years old, in a comic puppet in at first, and eventually we're going to realize that he's actually this super, maybe one of the most powerful people in the whole galaxy.
Kermit the Frog is one of the most
wise
powerful
and powerful. Yeah, maybe one of the most wise and powerful people to ever live. By the time that this is all done, that's what we're going to realize. And that's going to do is it's going to really empower the kids who are watching this to think, man, yeah, I can be little but powerful and wise, and and people can make fun of me, and that's okay because the Force is going to level the playing field. And the idea of the Force as this space religion, it levels the playing field for everybody. So anybody can tap into it, and that's really cool.
Will there be hallways and people firing lasers?
No, just different planets and stuff.
This movie is going to have
a
ton of action scenes, right? All this stuff, you're scaring me a little bit.
There's going to be the one action scene I was telling you about with the fight.
The laser swords.
The laser sword fight, yeah.
Okay, the whole second act of the first movie is people running, as I've said, running around hallways, firing lasers. It's just nonstop action. This movie is going to be nonstop action. That's the Star Wars brand, if there is one. I mean, we're deciding what it is, but it should be nonstop action, right?
No. What it's going to set up a third movie that's going to have a lot of action, maybe. But what this is really going to do is just develop the characters and the mythology. Yeah. This is part of it. This is okay. So I know we called the first one Star Wars, but now I want to kind of call it Star Wars Episode 4. Yeah.
And
this is going to be Episode 5. Well, it's the whole series surrounding the growth of how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, but we're going to tell that story maybe later down the line if we can get to
how
it. But right now,
Man became Robot Man.
He wasn't a robot man.
How Robbie the robot became Robbie the robot.
No, he's a person who became a robot man, just like Luke. He's Luke's father, right? He's a normal guy. He was a Jedi like Luke and like Obi-Wan, but he went bad, and bad things happened to him, and he kind of became a robot man. And well, maybe we can tell that story some other time, but
maybe,
yeah.
If I don't kick you out of my office right now, so you say there's not going to be a ton of action?
No, it's just going to be a lot. Really building out the worlds, this universe that we're in.
Okay,
the idea of the Force as
you like your little world, but people went to the first movie for action, right? For
relationships.
This is scaring me. Okay, the first movie is non. Once it gets going, it's nonstop action, and you're saying we're gonna stop to explain our fake mumbo jumbo religion to people from a puppet? Kermit the Frog. So instead of having a great action in our sequel to our action movie, we're going to have Kermit the Frog explain.
But instead of that action pacing, that's really cool. But what I think would be really cool is if we could step back and create this sort of mystical aura around all of this stuff.
A mystical aura?
Yeah, because okay, so we've got this other planet, right? And we've got like actually a lot of planets. Like one of the planets is in the clouds. So I'm calling it Cloud City for now. I mean,
That's just a working title, though. We'll come up with something more clever.
I kind of like it actually.
Cloud City. Okay, all right.
And then there's going to be this other planet, and it's going to be like a big swamp. There's going to be dinosaurs there.
Okay, I like dinosaurs. I can get, if we can afford it in the
like
budget.
We'll have like a pterodactyl flying.
That's cool.
Be an alien pterodactyl, not exactly a pterodactyl, but it's kind of dinosaur-y. That's cool, right? But it's just going to be this like swamp place, and the Yoda's this little green guy lives in the swamp place. And what I think would be really cool is if we had these scenes of like sort of like Rocky, Rocky.
That was a big success.
Like a training montage, but it's not going to be like Rocky because he's going to be like standing on his head and stacking rocks. His mind.
Wait a second. He's going to be standing on his head and stacking rocks
with his mind. Yeah.
Every time I think you've given me you've dumped all the insane on the table. Yeah. You come up with another terrible idea.
No. It's what's going to be cool is like he's going to be really working hard to tap into the Force.
This fake mystical mumbo jumbo that people don't care about.
In the movie, it's not fake, and people will care about it.
Why?
Because of these scenes right here that I'm telling you about.
It's the scenes where he stacks rocks on his head.
It's going to surprise
in our
people.
laser shooting movie.
No. Lasers, that was flashbang. It was good for the first movie, but I'm building a bigger universe and a bigger world here, and what we need is something that is...
what we need
Luke needs to take a step, and the step is he needs to take a step into a larger world.
In Planet of the Apes, the second movie, we needed to figure out what Charlton Heston's mom was like, and the religion that made Charlton Heston want to go after those dirty apes. And in the second James Bond movie, we didn't want to see James Bond go on adventures. We wanted to see James Bond get trained by the Q branch. We wanted to see him exercising. Here's the difference. Learning about James Bond philosophy. Listen, this is crazy talk.
Here's the thing. Eventually, James Bond movies are just going to be just another James Bond movie. Star Wars, I want it to be bigger and more special than that. I want to blow people's minds. I want to blow their expectations out of the water. I want them to see, just like Luke took a first step into a larger universe in A New Hope in the first movie. I want our audience to take another step into a larger universe in this second movie, so that they feel like, wow, anything can happen. There are possibilities and things going on in this world, in this universe that this Star Wars universe that I never imagined. I just think that would be really cool and really fun.
I understand what you're saying, but
and that's what's going to set it apart from things like Bond. There's no such thing as another Star Wars movie. There's no such thing as just another Star Wars movie.
Yeah, there might not be any more Star Wars movies if we keep going like this. If we just change everything that people liked about the first one, if we don't give them... here's my pitch, okay? Luke Skywalker, he goes on another adventure. There's another villain with I know it can't exactly be a Death Star, but this villain has another evil plan, and maybe there's a new girl and some new creatures, and he can do some new stuff. He can go to some new planets. And he can use your Force and everything, but he's got to basically do what kids like is knowing where they are in the formula. That's actually what we make for family pictures. We make formula pictures, right? Rocky 2, Rocky 3. Rocky's not going to box. He's going to do something else. This is ridiculous.
Okay, well, I just think that you've got your way, and maybe that story could that movie, could sell some tickets or whatever, but
my movie will sell tickets. Your movie,
but it won't be special. And what we want is something that's special, something that's epic, something that raises the bar for everybody.
What you want, if I'm understanding, is to take your little Star Wars laser movie and make the sequel Lawrence of Arabia, and that's a risky proposition. With a puppet.
Yeah, puppets are cool.
And I
really like them.
And you say the middle act isn't going to be a lot. We've got a laser sword battle at the end. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Any other major action in the movie?
Well, so there's going to be like this, like I was telling you, this place called Cloud City. That's where that battle's going to happen, the one I was telling you about. And I figured we could maybe blow up one of our droids like C-3PO there. Yeah.
Every kid's favorite character?
R2-D2 is kind of more their favorite character.
Okay, but the gay little English droid, right? Really popular, fan favorite character. Are you going to blow him up?
Kind of, but we can maybe put him back together.
Why would you do that?
Just to increase
just
the
want to
dramatic
make-
tension.
Dramatic tension? Kids don't care about dramatic tension.
Yes, they do. It keeps them hooked. Have you ever been to a movie and watched a kid like they feel like they don't like it, but it's what keeps them engaged in a movie?
They want to be safe. They want to know that they're in. Does everything at least end happily?
No, that's kind of what I think is the best part of this is like at the end of this movie, everybody is scattered and going separate places, and we don't know what's going to happen to anybody. And everybody's just like, whoa.
But you said Han and Leia, they're together. They're happy.
Well, actually, they realize they love each other by the end, but then we separate them. Han's going to get frozen and sent to this like evil gangster who's a big puppet space slug named Jabba the Hutt. And I feel like you're not buying this.
No.
But see, what that's going to do is set up the third movie where we have to go rescue Han, and then like the team's going to eventually come back together and then finally take down both Darth Vader and the Emperor, who will reveal as like the puppet master behind all of this in this film. But really, like,
so this is our kids movie, our sequel to the laser shooting hallway movie is going to end sad, and people have to wait a couple of years until the next one comes out.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
No, this is all insane.
No, it's not. It's super cool because at the end of it, people will be like, "Oh man, that was amazing! That blew my mind. I didn't know that Vader was Luke's father. I didn't know the Force. You can move stuff with your minds. I didn't know all this stuff was going to happen. I never thought that Han would end up with Leia, but now it makes sense. Oh man, and now they're all separated and there's so much tension. I can't wait to the next one. This is so cool.
There's so much.
How's it going to resolve between Luke and his dad?
The Robot Man.
The Robot Man, yeah, Darth Vader. Stop calling him a robot man. He's a man, and so, but he's like he's been through a lot. Like maybe he's been.
I'm sorry if
maybe he's been badly burned or something.
I'm sorry if I didn't grasp onto the humanity of the robot thug in your first movie.
Well, he's gonna feel more human by the end of this, and by the end of the whole story.
Are we gonna see his face?
This is a father and son story, really.
Is he gonna take off the mask when he says, "I'm your father"?
No, he's not, because
it's just gonna be an expressionless robot guy.
Yeah, and that's gonna make it that much more interesting and terrifying and cool.
You're using words like terrifying and tension in our kids' laser movie.
I think that's awesome.
Kids don't like to be terrified. They don't like tension. They can't.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. A movie without tension is just not cool. It's just the right amount of tension. It's the balancing act. There was tension all throughout the first movie.
Well, and yeah, tension which was resolved when the villains were defeated and got blown up.
And we're going to resolve this eventually, all this tension.
You know, here's what I'll give you. When Luke Skywalker is going after the new villain that we're going to come up with, Darth Vader can still be on the fringes trying to get revenge. You know, Robot Man can come in. We can do some action scenes, maybe laser. I'm going to say a laser sword fight, maybe halfway through. You know, and he defeats Vader just to give some good action or something like that. But
in this movie,
in the movie that we're going to make, where Luke goes on a new adventure.
No. There's no new adventure. This is all the same one adventure. This is about him becoming, the hero. He's got to face down his father.
But I thought
he's got to face down.
He became the hero. He blew up the bad guys at the end, and that didn't actually achieve anything. He's still on the run. This is
a first win, a big win for a small rebellion. Like, think about the resources that the Empire must have had to create this moon-sized thing. They're not just going to lay down because the moon got blown up, the space station got blown up. They're going to come back harder. They may be reeling a little bit,
but we destroyed
they're going to figure it out.
Super weapon, right? I mean, they.
Yeah, but
all they've got is Robot Man.
They kind of control the whole galaxy, so they've got like fleets and armadas and the resources to build a second bigger one, maybe.
So doesn't that kind of take away from what was so definitive and happy about Luke got a medal at the end of the movie? It really felt like he'd achieved something. You're saying actually, the Empire is still out there. They're still in full control.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
All we did was take one gun out of their arsenal, basically.
Isn't that cool?
I hate everything about this idea.
Well, that's why I'm the filmmaker, and
that's why you need my money, since you foolishly signed away your licensing and merchandising rights in this universe.
But my movie, like this movie, if you let me make it my way, is going to kind of change the world, like in the way that people think about movies and what movies can do and what movies can be and how much money can be made off of a film franchise. Like, here's the thing. what toys can you license and merchandise from Bond?
The Aston Martin and
Oh, the Aston Martin. Uh-huh.
James Bond in his little jetpack, and yeah, we can do some things. Different villains, different girls.
What if we could build out this universe, spaceships and cool characters and puppets that play well as figurines, and the idea that, these little figurines, they can move things, they can stack things, they can do all kinds of crazy things with their minds. Like, what if we just built out this world into this imaginative play place for kids?
If you had said, let's do that by telling another story where people fire lasers down hallways, which is what people basically liked about the first one, then...
I don't really think that's what people liked about the first one.
Okay, the space battle. This movie's going to have a big battle in space, right?
There's going to be actually no battle in this one, actually. There's just a fight between Vader and Luke.
That was kind of a big deal in the first movie. You spent a lot of what fired... Okay, let's talk about the kids. A lot of what fired their imagination was this big space battle, right? This World War II kind of going down the trench.
That was cool.
Given something like that, right?
I mean, we already did that. I feel like if we did that again, that would be kind of...
Well, there again, we already
silly.
did boxing in Rocky 1. I guess we won't do boxing in Rocky 2.
That's not the same.
Send Rocky on another adventure.
That's not the same thing. Not the same thing.
Build out the world. Find out what motivates Rocky. Let's do a movie about Rocky's religious beliefs. That'd be interesting. See Rocky spend time with his priests.
It would be interesting if we didn't have a bunch of assumptions about Rocky and Rocky's religious beliefs. But see, this is a new world and nobody has any idea what to make of it. And so, we can kind of do what we want. And I just think that's neat, fun, cool.
So you can just make people, you're telling me you're going to make a movie where you just tell people mumbo jumbo that's made up.
It's not mumbo jumbo. I kind of believe it, actually.
I kind of believe I'm going to have some guys escort you off the studio a lot now.
Okay, you know what, Mr. Studio Exec? I think I've got the perfect way to pitch this to you. Let's think about this movie as part one of a two-part film, okay? What we need is more laser battles, a bigger thing to blow up and destroy. But in order for that to happen, it needs to feel like our heroes are even more backed up against the wall than before. Because we can't just recreate, it's going to feel stupid if what we do is we just kind of recreate the same pattern. So
worked pretty well for Bond and Rocky and Planet of the Apes and all the other things that have been successful.
Did it though? Did it?
Those movies made
Did
money.
it really work well for Planet of the Apes? The sequels really pay off like the first one? I'm not really sure.
No, but they didn't take giant risks that alienated all their audience.
Risk reward. So here's how I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this next movie as the first in a two-part movie. It's going to culminate with bigger lasers and more space battles and more guns in hallways and more laser sword stuff and even more cool force stuff. Like maybe we'll make somebody shoot lightning or something like that with his fingertips. I don't care what. But this movie's got to set that up. And in order to set that up, we need possibilities to be all over the table. Possibilities for relationships, possibilities for what the Force can do, possibilities for the scale of the battle to increase. We need more worlds, more people involved. We need to feel like there's more at stake, and we need to feel like everybody's as backed up against the wall as possible by the end of this first part of this movie, so that when they come together in the second part of this movie, the catharsis of the final battle and the final defeat of the Empire will really, really be awesome, and it will really hit home.
Okay, I like what you're saying. I just don't see why we have to load all the tension, all the religion, all the puppets, all the not cool stuff into this movie. Nobody's gonna show up for your third exciting movie. Why don't let's just do the exciting movie?
I don't know that you know how stories work.
I know how studio filmmaking works.
You're not really seeing past the immediate.
Yeah, I remember. I remember my Grimm's fairy tale. It had the big diversion in the middle where the guy went to the puppet and the puppet taught him about religion, and then he went and defeated the princess, the dragon, and got the princess. And as a kid, that middle part was really enthralling. I'm being sarcastic here, Mr. Lucas.
But I'm going to take your analogy and I'm going to show you why you're wrong. King Arthur, he gets the sword. He, just like Luke got the sword, right? Follow me here. Luke gets the sword, right? He's got to go. And Arthur's got to figure out what it means to be a king. Arthur needs a mentor who's going to teach him who he is and how to pull the kingdom. He's got to have his Merlin.
All of which happened, and if I'm Obi-Wan, I take it was Merlin, all of which happened in the first movie while people were firing lasers down hallways. So we can do whatever you want, but let's just make sure there's lots of lasers being fired down hallways, and give them a little bit more of what they're expecting, and maybe we can fill some stuff in around the cracks, like what you're talking about. These all seem like okay ideas, but let's make sure that we're doing what people expect from a Star Wars sequel.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. I don't want to do what they expect. I want to do something different. I want to do something cool. I want to do something people have never seen before. You're a stodgy loser and I hate you and I want to take this film somewhere else. I wish I had not made this movie to begin with, or made it and had all the rights. Like, I'm making you a crap ton of money and you should just trust me that I know what I'm doing. I'm making you money. You made lots and lots of money off this first movie, and I'm telling you, we're gonna change the game with this next film if you just let me do it. Like, we're gonna change the way people think about movies. We're gonna change the world. We're gonna change the way, like, we're gonna make Bond look like a chintzy British cult series compared to Star Wars.
Bond is pretty state of the art, sir, and those movies make a lot of money.
You haven't seen state of the art. This is going to be the new state of the art. It's going to make Bond look stupid, silly, small.
And you're fired. And scene. Okay, so what have we learned today? Listen, I don't know that an executive actually would be that stodgy and hateful about everything. Hopefully not. But I think people probably got our point, which is, and I don't think that you can overstate it. I actually think our point was pretty correct, which is Empire Strikes Back is an insane gamble. And it doesn't feel like it because it just feels inevitable. Of course, the Force is something that's important. Of course, all these things. Of course, all this world building. But man, George Lucas did have to be a visionary to see that, because I don't think it was obvious. I think the template at the time would have been to just do more of the same.
Yeah, just another movie that ends with another big battle.
Right. So there we go. We've driven the point into the ground. The only point I wanted to make with this podcast is that A, nothing was particularly intuitive about Empire Strikes Back. B, when you think about Star Wars as a property, as a franchise, as a myth, as anything more than just the first movie, Empire Strikes Back is really where they decided, and
that's where it was created.
That's where it was created, not the first one.
Yeah.
The first one could have been anything. It could have been a one-off. It could have been It could have been something else that was big and different, but Empire Strikes Back decided what...
I mean, really, in A New Hope, the Force isn't... Saying trust the Force isn't really much more than saying trust your heart.
Yeah, it's just a mantra.
Follow
basically.
Your heart.
Yeah.
A little bit of intuition.
Well, you know what? An interesting point of comparison for this that I just thought of is Indiana Jones. So they actually chose to follow the template of the studio template, basically, with Indiana Jones. He's going to go on a new adventure. There's going to be a new girl. There's going to be a new bad guy. There's going to be a new MacGuffin every time. And I think a lot of kids in particular are annoyed with that decision. It's one of the things that makes Temple of Doom feel kind of weird. Like, we wanted to see more of this world. We wanted to see more of Marion. We wanted to see...
Yeah, what's going to happen with Indy and Marion?
Like, we want to see a sequel, not just another installment in the Indiana Jones movies. And they made a conscious choice there too. And I don't know whether it was the right one. We have what we have, and we got some good Indiana Jones movies. But everybody's favorites are Raiders and Crusade, and those are the ones that feel the most like a piece with each other. Mm-hmm. Nazis
bringing, it's the Indy story. It's the first one, he comes to believe or reveals that he really believes in the supernatural stuff. And the second one, or not the second one, but Crusade, he's got to lean on it.
Right.
And it's a father-son relationship, and this is how he became who he is. And
that's exactly right. Well, and it's interesting to speculate, like Temple of Doom, they could have done any number of things, and they chose to go a certain direction, and I don't know.
And fun fact, in case you didn't know this, Temple of Doom is a prequel.
They made it a prequel for some reason. Maybe to leave things open with Marion. I don't know.
Maybe.
But Lucas, I know, really wanted to do those movies he loved James Bond movies. I think that's all there is to it. He wanted there to be a different girl. He wanted there to be a different adventure and a different MacGuffin every time. Like, that was the template that he had in mind for those movies from the beginning. But he did not want to do that with Star Wars. And I think I think it's, I know we've been driving this point into the ground, but I really think the thing that would have made most sense for Star Wars would have been new MacGuffin, new girl, new adventure.
New battle.
New battle. The continuity is probably Luke Skywalker, maybe some of his friends, maybe.
Yeah.
The droids, because they're cute, just keep the things that people like, give him another adventure that's basically different but more the same is what studios actually like. It's what's safe, it's what's risk averse, it's what allows people to keep their jobs. You might not make the best Planet of the Apes movie, but your job as an executive, the thing that you want is not to be the person that makes the best Planet of the Apes movie. You don't care about making the best Planet of the Apes movie. What you care about is being able to tell the investors you're not the person that screwed up the Planet of the Apes franchise.
Yep.
And so you play it safe. But George Lucas didn't do that. Thank you, merchandising rights. Thanks to Kenner Toys and all that good stuff. He didn't have to. And we'll be back to talk some more about the specifics of Empire Strikes Back as soon as we can. Sanity at the Movies, produced by me, executive produced by Jake and me. Till next time.
You've taken your first steps into a larger world.
That's not from the right movie.
I know.
I say that.